Today's learning intention is to understand the meaning of a zero vector. Let's look at some examples. Now, a zero vector by definition is a resultant vector with a magnitude equal to 0. So here's a tennis ball. If a ball is thrown up in the air and then caught in its original position, it has travelled a distance 2 times its height h, but its displacement is 0. Remember, distance is scalar, it has magnitude only, but displacement is a vector. The ball started and finished in the same spot, so effectively it didn't go anywhere. So that is an example of a zero vector. Here's another example. Now remember, the zero vector is a resultant vector with a magnitude equal to 0. So now I have an example of a boomerang. If you throw a boomerang and catch it again, now that's the tricky bit, there is 0 displacement. The boomerang finished off where it started, it didn't effectively go anywhere. That's an example of a zero vector. So a zero vector is a resultant vector with magnitude equal to 0. So if a car is stationary and you start recording the time, and the time's ticking along, the displacement of the car will be 0 after a time interval delta t. It's not moving, it's not going anywhere. The only thing that's going is time. Time's passing by, but the car's not travelling anywhere. The displacement of the car is a zero vector. It hasn't moved. Also, you can think about the same car. If the car is still stationary and you start recording the time, the velocity of the car will be 0 after a time interval delta t. It's not moving, it's not going anywhere, it has 0 velocity. So the velocity in this example is also a zero vector. Now our car's moving. If a car is moving at a constant speed, then its acceleration is 0. It's not accelerating at all, it's got a constant speed. And here's our last example. Now a zero vector is a resultant vector with a magnitude equal to 0. So looking at our x, y, z 3D coordinate axes here, then the position vector of the origin 0 is a zero vector. It's the vector 0, 0, 0. Its magnitude equals 0. It's a zero vector. So now time to self-assess your progress. Has this made any sense at all? If not, tick red. If you're okay with using examples, tick amber. And if it's fine, you've understood it, tick green. So what have we learned today? A zero vector is a vector with magnitude equal to 0.